Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we have got an absolutely fascinating explainer lined up for you all. We're going to be unpacking a really comprehensive analysis by Drew Vrothy that peers right behind one of the most secretive borders in the world. We're looking at daily life in North Korea, and what we're really looking at here is the literal architecture of absolute power. Okay, let's dive into this. To wrap our heads around a topic this massive, here's our roadmap. We'll be looking at the Kim family dictatorship, the loss of basic freedoms, propaganda and brainwashing, the realities of fear, labor, and prisons, and finally, protecting our own freedoms. All right, part 1. The Kim family dictatorship, decades of extreme control. So, to really understand daily life in North Korea, you've got to first understand the sweeping, absolute authority sitting right at the very top. See, this isn't just your standard government, right? It's a multi-generational dynasty, and it's built on a very specific triad: fear, propaganda, and extreme control. And I want to be clear here, this isn't some accidental byproduct of their system. It is literally the calculated engine that keeps the whole regime running. Every policy, every single law, even social norms, they're all engineered to reinforce these three pillars. It basically ensures the state's power remains totally unchallenged. Let's move to and see how this builds into part 2, loss of basic freedoms, the everyday reality. When that kind of absolute power trickles down to the street level, the very concept of a private life, it just disappears. You know, we often think of dictatorships in terms of massive political movements. But the analysis points out that even the most mundane personal choices are dictated by the state. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep that control goes. We are talking about severe travel restrictions, like literally needing a permit just to visit a neighboring town. The state dictates your fashion choices, right down to a list of state-approved haircuts. Crazy, right? And above all, there is strict enforcement of zero access to outside information. The state decides what you wear, where you go, and exactly what you are allowed to know. Moving on to part 3, propaganda and brainwashing, controlling the mind. Now, once your physical freedoms are restricted, well, the next logical step for the regime is psychological control. Controlling the body just isn't enough. They have to control the mind. The analysis outlines a super systematic, step-by-step process they use to actually pull this off. Step 1, a total information blackout. Think about it. If you don't know what the rest of the world looks like, you literally can't compare it to your own reality. Then step 2 fills that void by just bombarding citizens with state-approved propaganda, which shapes their entire worldview from the day they are born. And finally, step 3 cultivates a deep, pervasive culture of fear. That ensures that even if someone does manage to see through the lies, sheer terror effectively silences any dissent. But looking at all this isolation, it actually brings up a massive logistical question. How does a state maintain its economy under such extreme isolation? I mean, when you completely cut yourself off from the global market and heavily restrict your own citizens, how do you actually keep the country functioning on a basic material level? That brings us to part 4, fear, labor, and prisons. The dark consequences. Well, the grim answer to that logistical question is forced labor. Without open trade or a free market, the state just uses its own population as a captive workforce. It's a system where economic output is, quite literally, extracted through coercion. It sustains the regime at a massive, massive expense to the people's well-being and basic human rights. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer compounding weight of the control tactics used here. The regime employs a terrifying concept known as generational punishment. The analysis details how, inside these political prison camps, it's not just the accused who faces the music. Entire families, spanning across multiple generations, are punished for the alleged crime of just a single family member. It's an unfathomable deterrent. They're basically holding the lives of your parents, your kids, and your grandkids over your head just to ensure absolute compliance. Finally, part 5, protecting our own freedoms, the ultimate lesson. Okay, so after unpacking these really heavy, sobering realities, we kind of have to zoom back out to our own lives, because the goal of analyzing this explainer isn't just to gawk at a distant country, it's to understand the broader implications for us. On one side, we see the mechanics of an extreme dictatorship, right? State-run propaganda, forced labor, aggressively silenced dissent. But on the flip side, we have our democratic freedoms, free information, personal choice, open voices. Seeing them side by side like this makes it abundantly clear how radically different these paradigms are. And honestly, it shows just how fragile our democratic liberties can be if they're not actively protected. As the source material points out, we have to examine the lessons we can learn to protect our own freedoms.
So the crucial point is, by studying the total loss of liberty in places like North Korea, we gain a much sharper appreciation for the everyday rights that we honestly take for granted. It's a powerful reminder of why active vigilance and participation in safeguarding our own liberties is so incredibly vital. I really want to leave you with this one thought to ponder. If your access to free information vanished tomorrow, how long would your other freedoms last? As we've seen today, the control of information is almost always the very first domino to fall in the loss of liberty. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep valuing your right to learn, and I'll catch you next time.